Sean Bean had been on live television hundreds of times in his long career, but nothing felt quite as unpredictable as daytime talk shows, especially Loose Women. Still, he arrived at the studio that grey London morning with his usual calm, nodding politely at staff, sipping his tea, and rehearsing answers in his head. It was supposed to be a simple promotional appearance for his new drama series. No drama off-screen, no scandal, no fireworks. He had no idea what Denise Welch had prepared. The moment he stepped onto the Loose Women set, the energy felt tense. Denise sat in her chair with her arms folded, her expression unusually sharp. The other hosts wore polite smiles, but there was an undercurrent, something quietly buzzing beneath the surface. Sean sensed it but brushed it off. He took his seat, adjusted his jacket, and flashed his familiar half-smile to the cameras. Joining us today, said host Charlene White, is the brilliant Sean Bean. We're excited to talk about his new series. But Denise cut her off. Before we get into the show, she said, leaning forward, I'd like to ask Sean something a bit overdue. Charlene blinked. Jane Moore shifted in her seat. The producer behind the cameras subtly waved his hands, as if trying to signal Denise to stay on script. She didn't even look. Sean raised an eyebrow. Right, well, go on then, he said, calm as ever. Denise took a breath. Sean, you've had an incredible career. No one is denying that. But over the years, you've been criticized for some, shall we say, problematic behavior on set. There've been comments about temper, intensity, clashes with directors. And here you are again promoting another gritty role. Don't you think it's time to address the elephant in the room? The audience let out a collective gasp. Sean's smile disappeared. Charlene tried to intervene. Denise, we're actually going to talk about the series first. No, Denise insisted. The viewers deserve honesty. Sean turned his head slowly, looking directly at Denise. I wasn't told this was going to be a trial, he said, voice measured. Denise shrugged. No one is putting you on trial, Sean. But when someone has a history of difficult behavior. Sean laughed under his breath. History. You're digging into ancient gossip now. It's not gossip if multiple people have said it, Denise snapped. The tension thickened. The other panelists exchanged worried glances. The producer behind the camera made a frantic circling motion with his finger. Wrap it up, move on, but Denise seemed stubbornly planted. Sean leaned forward, matching her posture. Look, he said, I'm passionate about my work. That's all. I'm Northern. We're intense by nature. But I've never mistreated anyone. And I don't appreciate being ambushed on national television. Well, maybe, Denise said sharply, people need to stop being scared of calling you out. That was the breaking point. Sean's calm evaporated entirely. Scared, he repeated. You think anyone's scared of me? This is ridiculous. I came here to talk about my work, not listen to you dig up rumors from 20 years ago. Denise fired back without missing a beat. Oh, I'm sorry, did I hit a nerve? Because you seem quite. Sean didn't let her finish. Maybe you should look at your own behavior before you start attacking mine. The audience gasped again, louder this time. Denise's eyes widened for a split second before narrowing. Charlene hurriedly stepped in. Okay, let's take a quick break. But Sean stood up. No, he said firmly. I'm not doing this. The cameras were still rolling. The producers had not cut to commercial yet. The audience froze as Sean removed his mic and placed it on the table with a steady, deliberate motion. Denise opened her mouth to respond, but he held up a hand. I've worked too long and too hard, he said, voice low and resonant enough that everyone heard every syllable, to be insulted by someone who clearly wants drama more than truth. Denise scoffed loudly. Oh please, don't be so dramatic. This is a conversation. This is provocation, he corrected. Charlene tried to stall. Sean, maybe if we just. But he was already walking away from the table. The studio crew went into panic mode. One cameraman instinctively followed him, another kept the shot wide to capture the stunned panel. Audience members whispered in confusion, some covering their mouths, unsure if this was staged or real. Sean reached the edge of the set, then turned back just long enough to say, next time, invite me to talk about my work, not to be your headline. He exited the stage. The moment he disappeared, Denise exhaled sharply and threw her hands up. Well, that escalated quickly. Charlene looked horrified. Denise, You can't just. But the producers finally cut to a commercial break. Behind the scenes, chaos erupted. Assistants scattered. The PR team for Sean's series looked like they were witnessing their careers disintegrate in real time. Sean's manager stormed toward the backstage hallway. A pair of producers argued in hushed but frantic voices about who allowed Denise to go off script. Meanwhile, Denise simply sat back in her chair, sipping water as if nothing had happened. The fallout hadn't even begun yet. The commercial break had never felt so long. The Loose Women's studio usually buzzed with easy chatter, but now the silence backstage was suffocating. Assistants whispered frantically into headsets, producers scribbled notes, and Sean Bean's PR manager paced like a nervous wolf. Sean himself stood in the corridor, breathing heavily, trying to calm the fire still burning in his chest. He hated losing his temper, especially on live television. But Denise's ambush had pushed him further than he'd expected. A young runner approached him timidly. "Mr. Bean, the producers want to know if you'll return for a short closing segment. Just to, smooth things over." Sean gave a humorless laugh. Smooth things over. Love, they'd need a team of surgeons for that. The girl swallowed, nodded quickly, and retreated. Sean rubbed his face with both hands. He was too old for this. Too experienced. Too tired. All he wanted was a quiet interview, promote the work he was proud of, and leave. Instead, he'd been dragged into an argument he never sought. His manager, David, finally caught up with him. "Sean, mate, what happened out there? I left you alone for 10 minutes. Sean raised an eyebrow. 10 minutes is all Denise needed. David sighed. ITV is panicking. They're terrified of the backlash. Sean shrugged. They should have thought of that before letting her play prosecutor. David pinched the bridge of his nose. Look, we need to handle this smartly. You walking out is going viral already. There are audience clips on social media. Of course there are, Sean muttered. No one ever puts their phones down. Meanwhile, inside the studio, Denise Welch was unapologetically touching up her lipstick. Jane Moore leaned close to her. "Denise," she whispered sharply, "you blindsided him." Denise shrugged. Someone had to ask what everyone's been thinking. He overreacted. "It's not your job to interrogate guests," Jane hissed. "Maybe not," Denise replied coolly, "but it is my job to be honest." Charlene returned from speaking with producers, visibly shaken. "They want us to apologize on air when we come back." Denise snorted. "I'm not apologizing for doing my job." "You didn't do your job," Charlene snapped back. "You went rogue." The director's voice echoed from across the studio. "Ladies, 30 seconds. Please, just keep it civil." Denise gave one final, indifferent shrug. Backstage, as the crew counted down, David tugged Sean by the sleeve. "Can we please go to your car? No media. No statements. We'll handle this privately." But Sean shook his head. "No. If they're going to talk about me on air, I'm not letting them spin it." David blinked. "Wait, what are you going to do?" Sean exhaled. "Something I probably shouldn't." And before David could stop him, Sean marched back toward the stage door. The countdown hit 0. We're live in 3, 2, 1. Charlene faced the camera, attempting professionalism despite her tension. "Welcome back. Before we continue, we'd like to address what just happened." But before she could finish, the audience gasped as Sean reappeared, stepping straight back onto the set. Denise's jaw dropped. "Oh, he's back." Charlene looked both relieved and terrified. "Sean, would you like to say something?" Sean walked up to his chair but didn't sit. He stood tall, hands clasped behind his back. "Yes," he said, "I would." The audience fell silent. "I'm not here to fight," he began. "I'm not here to shout. But I won't have my character dragged on live television without the chance to respond properly." Denise rolled her eyes. "No one dragged." Sean cut her a look that quieted her immediately. He continued. "I've worked with hundreds of actors, directors, and crews over the years. I may be intense. I may be passionate. But I've never disrespected a colleague. And if someone wants to claim otherwise, they can say it to my face, not whisper it for headlines." The audience clapped softly. Sean turned to Denise. "And if you wanted to ask me something, you could have done it respectfully, without ambushing me." Denise folded her arms. "So you think you were treated unfairly?" "Yes," he answered without hesitation. "And I think you know it." The tension between them was electric, almost cinematic. Charlene stepped in before it could ignite again. We appreciate you both speaking honestly. But I think it's best we move on and. But this time, Denise interrupted her. You know what, Sean? If you can dish it out, you can take it. Maybe the real issue is you don't like being challenged. The audience murmured. Sean stared at her for a long moment. Calmly. Unwavering. No, he said quietly. I don't mind being challenged. I mind being disrespected. Denise's lips pressed into a thin line. For the first time, she looked genuinely unsure. Charlene, sensing disaster, jumped in. All right, let's wrap. But the director's voice cut through the studio speakers. Cut to break. Cut to break. The screen abruptly faded to commercials again. Dash dash dash. This time, security escorted Sean off the set to prevent a second confrontation. David followed close behind. Heated confrontation, David muttered, shaking his head. That's the headline for tonight. Sean sighed deeply. Let them write what they want. I said what I needed. But as they exited the building into the chaotic swirl of paparazzi and reporters, Sean realized this wasn't over. Not even close.